Dr. Gordon? Hello. Okay. Your I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you. You something is off with your volume. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh,
Yeah, that's
yes.
it.
She
That's
can
it.
hear me. So
How
we got
are you?
all right. Yes. Yes, good to go. Thank you so much.
Excellent, Dr. Golden. I'm looking forward to this time. I'll be listening in the community, okay?
Thank you so much. I'm very excited about it. Thanks for your help.
Okay, thank you.
Bye-bye.
How
Hello.
are you? Oh my goodness. How are you?
I'm just fine. Thank you. How are you?
I'm fine. You made it, huh? You made it.
Yes. Yes, I made it. I made it. I made it. I was
Awesome.
worried there for a second, but we got it together.
It's all good. It's all good. Well,
Yes.
we are live right now as we're speaking. So,
Oh, boy. Very good.
yeah. So now we're just gonna wait for Matthew and Courtney to come in, and then we'll begin the show.
Very good.
Now, I understand you're not on Facebook, right?
I have a Facebook account, but I deactivated my Facebook page.
Oh, okay.
Because it just got to be a little bit too much for me. Too much drama on Facebook.
Well, you know what? I understand how I know how that goes, but
yeah. Could you excuse me one moment? I'm going to close my door to drown out some background noise.
Absolutely.
I'll be right back.
Sure.
All right, here I am.
Awesome.
Yes. I'm just turning down the ringer on my mobile phone so that if anybody calls or anything, I don't get interrupted.
I totally get it. Let me do the same here. Usually what I do is I get on Facebook because we're live right now as we're speaking on Facebook.
Sure.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. E, how are you? Thank you for coming. Sharon, thank you for coming. Please, could you all share as you're coming? Thank you so much. Share as you're coming. I'm going to go in and do the same too. Dr. E, please move it around. Yes. This is going to be cool. We got a man here.
Mm-hmm. Go easy on me. Go easy on me, ladies.
Don't worry. We love men, so you don't have to worry about that.
Well, that's all right.
Riley, yeah, see, they're blowing your hearts already.
Oh, man, that makes me feel good.
They're blowing your hearts already. So now let's get our other two other brothers in here so that we can begin. In the meantime, I'm just give me a few seconds because I need to move this around my groups so everybody know that we are here live and well, and we are good to go, people. Ladies, please, as you're coming, this is an epic moment for us. So please move it around. Uh-oh. Greg is trying to figure out how to get in. Oh my goodness. I'm the wrong person to call at this time. Ooh, let's see. Let's see how to help our brother out here. Let me see who is up here too that can help. Let's see who can help our brother. Can someone please help Greg? All right. I think, thank you, ladies. Thank you for moving it around. Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, thank you for the hearts, everybody. Hey, Yolanda. Hey, Dr. Lenora. Welcome. Hey, Connie. Welcome. Ramona. Welcome. Can you all please just move this around as we do here? You know what we do here, people. All right, let me do my own little moving around. Thank you all for coming. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate you. I appreciate you. Hey, Yolanda, welcome. Hey, Dr. Lenora, welcome. Thank you. Please move it around. Let's start watch parties over this. Watch parties, ladies. Watch parties. All right, let's see where I'm going here. Oh, okay. All right, we have Matthew here. Okay. Hey, Matthew, welcome. Hey, welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey, Matthew. Oh, the two of you are together. Well, that just makes my day. That makes it all nice. All right. And I think Greg is the one trying to make his way here.
Okay. All right.
Awesome, awesome. Greg, is that you?
How you doing, Princess Rumi?
Hey, how are you?
Okay.
How are you?
Oh, good.
Hey, oh, Jason. I should have. Oh, okay. What happened? I can't hear you, Jason. All right. So somebody needs to help Greg come in. Our brother Greg is like, what's the link? What's the link? Thank you all so much for joining us. Just bear with me. I need to move things around my group for a minute here. All right. So join us. Hey, Jason, how are you? Can Jason see? Jason, can you see? Can you see? It doesn't look like Jason is looking like he's not seeing anything.
Like you can't hear it.
Yeah. Jason, can you see anything? No, he doesn't look like he's seeing anything. Hey, Greg, how are you? Uh-oh. What happened to your sound, Greg?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. How are you?
I am blessed to hear your voice. How are you? I'm just picking up one of my
Thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome.
I'm so glad you're here, Greg. I'm so glad.
Thank you. Thank you.
This is something that's been forthcoming forever. So it's finally here. Now let's see Jason. I think Jason is trying it again.
All right, here we go. I can hear you now.
Hey, oh, awesome.
Hello, gentlemen. Matthew, Greg, and Jason. How are you?
Hey, Tim, how's it going?
Good.
Hey, Greg, how's it going? Hey,
nice
Princess,
to meet all of
Hey,
you.
Matthew.
Yes. Likewise. Likewise.
So just bear with me. Let me quickly move this around our groups here so that we can get more people are coming in already. So we just want to get more people in.
I'm going to drive. I'll be home in 10 minutes. So I'll go in my office and get back on.
Okay, that's cool. That's cool. Now you have the link, right?
Yes, I have the link. So as soon as I get home, I'll get in my office and then I'll hop back on.
That's just fine. Wait.
All right, everyone. I'll see you in a little bit.
Okay, that's just fine. Let's see. Just bear with me for a second. I need to ladies, please continue to share. Thank you so much for coming. Continue to share. Connie, thank you. Erica, welcome. Sharon, thank you for coming. Please continue to share as you come in. Continue to share. We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Okay,
all right,
let me a few things here.
I'm almost done with my sharing. Let's see.
All
right.
And ladies, if you can start a watch party, please start a watch party on this. This is an epic moment for us, ladies. So let's share. Sharing is caring. Thank you. We appreciate that. Now let me move it on my Twitter. see. Thank you, ladies. Thank you for doing that. Now I need to put it on Twitter. Let's see, join us.
All right.
Yeah. So, all right. Now I have to watch out for Greg here, so that I do not miss when she comes in. Dana, hey. Hello, Dr. E. Thank you for joining. Please tell, could you drop it inside of our messenger? Just drop it. All right. So let me just start this as we go in. Let me just say thank you so much first. What we're gonna do is we're gonna mute ourselves. We're all going to mute, and as we ask questions and as we discuss, we unmute. So when you have something to say or you are asked directly, you just unmute yourself, because if we all unmute at the same time, we'll start hearing too many echoes. So I think that's what we're gonna do. So just bear with me for a second. Okay. Let me make sure this is recording.
Do you want us to mute ourselves now?
Yes. Okay. Yes, thank you. All right. Thank you all, ladies, for coming. I appreciate you. Ramona, thank you. Please drop the link in our group and let our group know that our guys are here. Thank you, ladies. Thank you. All right, now let me do one thing. There's one more thing I want to do here. One more thing. Thank you all, ladies, for coming. I appreciate you. Please, as you come in, do share. I know this is Sunday, this is evening, but it's going to be an exciting time. Exciting time with our men here. So thank you, ladies, for taking the time to come out. All right, let's see.
I saved money with Liberty Mutual's customized insurance. Some of it went towards a family trip. I can't say where.
For innocent eyes, April and curious minds, lives in the flower of spring, angels in search of their wings, born into poverty, they shine with dignity. Through the tears that rush to my eyes, Jesus is who I see. Friend to an angel, welcome them and you welcome me. Friend to an angel, the kingdom of God belongs to such a dream. Hearts and promising souls, desperately needing hope. Children of limitless dreams, all that they lack.
Thank you, ladies, for coming. Hey, Michael, thank you for coming.
Think of how easily we can change their destiny. We hope to give to them, and the chance we will receive. Pray to an angel, welcome them and you welcome me. Pray to an angel,
Hello, Chichi.
Friend to an angel. Friend to an angel. There's so much to be done. Hand in hand, everyone. One world, one family dream.
Thank you, ladies. Come on, let's share. Let's share. Hey, Chichi, can you move it around? Yes. To an angel. Welcome, welcome to an angel. The kingdom of God belongs to such a welcome them and welcome me.
Kingdom of God belongs to such a
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for joining us at the Doctor of Nurse Practice show, which is presented by, of course, yours truly, the Princess of Suburbia. Thank you so much. I had to pick that song. Do you know where I picked that song? That song was created, believe it or not, one of the voices there was mine. And that song was created for us, the foundation of the Princess of Suburbia, when we were on our way to Africa to do some work in Africa. And so that's then I started thinking about what is the best song that I can really use here. And it's Friend to an Angel, because I really regard our men as their friends to our angel, my angel, and you ladies are my angels. And so that song, I felt like that song was so appropriate to introduce our wonderful men. This is an event that's been forthcoming for quite some time now. I'm so glad that we finally get to do it. Many people say there's a lot of feminist groups out there. You all know we're not feminist group. We're just women who want to be heard. We're just women who want to understand our men better so that we can begin a conversation around issues and topics that are hot out there in the media. So my name again is Dr. Princess Fumi Nkok. You guys know me as your life strategist. Others call me your life rehab ambassador. Some people even know me as your global vision midwife. Whatever it is that you call me today, we're welcome aboard this ship. And I really tell you, our lives will never be the same again, because a lot of times we're out there, we see a lot of shows that is always about women, which we all do to inside of this group. But today we are choosing to hear our men. Today we are choosing, right, ladies? We are choosing to hear our men, because until we begin to listen to our men too, right? Florida said something. He says males have survivors too, right? There are males that are survivors too. It's not just about our women surviving, but our males are also surviving. And then because of that, it's important that we now begin to just do some conversation around it. So I'm going to start this off by starting from Dr. Gordon. I want him to come on, share with us in just quick, who are you, what have you done, and why are you here on this platform today?
Hello, thank you, Princess, and I'm so honored and humbled to be here with this group and to have the opportunity to continue to raise awareness about an issue that's very near and dear to me. So my name is Timothy Golden. I am a professor of philosophy at a small Christian college in Washington State. I work at Walla Walla University, and I among other things that I do, I'm also a lawyer and I have an interest in theater, so I'm an actor as well. I'm here because someone affiliated with your group saw my TED Talk where I spoke of the emotional abuse of men. And it was a TED Talk that I gave that was born out of my own experience. I was just chatting with someone in the group a moment ago, and I was saying that I didn't really want to give the talk, but I realized that these issues are so much bigger than me, that we live in a culture and a world that has very little regard for the emotional life of men. We tend to privilege the things that we see. And so when a woman has black eyes, broken bones, and missing teeth, we get very upset, as we should, because the physical abuse of women is unacceptable and domestic violence against women is unacceptable. But what I think is equally as unacceptable that we don't give enough attention to is the emotional well-being of men. And there are too many men out there who suffer in silence because sadly we live in a culture that has no regard for our inner lives. And so I'm grateful to be here and I look forward to sharing more with everyone this afternoon. Let me just say before I mute myself again that my personal mission is not to rest until the emotional abuse of men is treated with the same sense of urgency as is the physical abuse of women.
Wow.
That's my mission. And so thank you, Princess, for having me here. And I'm just humbled and honored to be here this afternoon. And again, I look forward to sharing more. So thank you.
Awesome. Wow. Tonight is going to be a great one. So let's go quickly to Courtney and Matthew. Can you each introduce yourselves and just follow suit? Why are you here? And what do we expect? What should we be expecting from you guys tonight?
My name is Courtney Harris. I'm a minister of the gospel, and I'm also a peer support counselor. The reason why I'm here is pretty much piggybacking off of Mr. Golden. As far as the emotional suffering of men, somehow it seems to be silenced. A lot of men suffer in silence, you know what I'm saying, emotionally, not getting the same attention emotionally as women get, you know what I'm saying, for physical abuse. And so that's why I'm here to just raise the awareness on that men can be understood as well, get that same balance, if you would, and just, that we can be heard, be understood, and not continue to be misunderstood. A lot of times it's not treated in certain communities are accepted. It's like he's saying, as far as what men go through and what men do undergo, and just from my own experience as well, I've undergone a lot of emotional, trauma, where I'm kept silent. I mean, the courts, even in, legally, do not recognize it, or, so that's why I'm here, just to raise the awareness, and just that men can be understood just as well as women are understood, can get that same equality, if you would, and hopefully and prayerfully we can move forward.
Awesome. Matthew?
Well, I'm definitely here because it has been a burden of mine, just with men and young men, and just really kind of seeing the plight of just how things have just been kind of lopsided, Again, my name is Matthew Hammond. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm here because I see the need for this platform, really, for this voice to be heard, because like my other brothers have said, that you can see it. You can even see it in the numbers, that men are suffering in silence, they're suffering in silence. And when you look at the numbers, it's really, really disparaging. You know what I mean? And it's horrible to look at. And with men being foundational within society, I think it's really important that we take a look at this. We take another look at what's really going on. You know what I mean? And support not just the women. Yes, we will support our women, but the men are supporting the women. So we have to find support for them too.
Awesome. Well, one of the ladies here said, Chichi said the courts do not legally recognize men's emotions. And Connie says, I love the men in my life. They are so supportive mentally. So we're going to be talking a lot about this. So Jason, can you introduce yourself and just follow suit?
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jason Hodge, and I'm here because, it's a very important conversation. Just coming up in the society and seeing the way that people are treated, and specifically men around this topic. Men are treated as if, for one, we don't have emotions, and we're not impacted by things the same way, that humans are impacted. Whether you be a man or a woman, there are things that affect us, and they affect us deeply. But because we are trained not to speak on it,
That's right.
then a lot of things get swept under the carpet. And it's almost like, generation after generation, when you are not made okay to address certain topics, then it gets swept under the rug. And then it comes down to people think that because it's never spoken of, it just doesn't exist. I've had my own experiences, even in dealing in the courts, where men's rights, are not looked at. And, I'm actually excited about this conversation today because I think that it's going to bring to light a lot of things that people just don't really think about, So I'm here to lend my voice to this conversation. It's an important one. That's the only reason why I'm here. It's an important one.
Thank you, Brother Jason. Well, Greg, I think Greg was here earlier. He's probably, I'm going to wait. All right, thank you. I think Greg was here earlier. He's driving, so I think he's going to come in as soon as he gets home. My role here is just to moderate, because I just want you men to piggyback off of each other. And if there are questions that I'm seeing on here, I'm going to stop and I'm going to ask you ladies to help you guys to help us understand, my ladies to understand, because some of them are already throwing questions and they're already throwing statements on here already. Ladies, please, I want you to do watch parties on this. I want you to send this, put this on all of your social media, Twitter, everything that you have. Please put it, because, here's the thing. Many of you know my story, right? The deep freezer lady, right? So you know that I've been through divorce, I've been through abuse, I've been through a lot of things, right? And so you know that I'm always for women. Fearless Visionaries was started because of women. I wanted women to hear the women's voices to be heard. But as I began to work with women, then I started seeing men too. And I said, my goodness, we cannot, for us to find solutions, we cannot ignore men. Ignoring men is going to end up causing even more trouble than whatever it is that we're trying to do. While we understand and appreciate the fact that we are in a season where women are being heard right now. But for me, I also see that if we're not careful, there are some innocent men that will get swept with all these things that is going on right now. As much as we enjoy the fact that, yes, those who are our perpetrators have finally been caught, I just can't help but feel that if we do not start to have serious conversations where we can understand our men, where we also know that men do care too, right? They have hearts too, where we understand, if we don't start to do this, it's quite likely that some of our children, not just somebody else's children, some of our brothers, our children, innocent men are going to end up in prison at the point of all the things that is going on now. And so when we start this conversation, let me just throw this because I'm moderating. Let me just throw this at you guys. What do you want us to know? What is the number one thing that each one of you want us to know about the plight of women, the modern day men? What is the plight of the modern day men in the face of all the media things that is going on right now? What is the plight? From your own perspective, what is the plight? What are you seeing, and what are you hearing?
You know, from a media standpoint, first off, when you take what you see in media at face value as the gospel truth, that's where you make your first mistake, because you're not understanding what the business model of media is. Media's sole purpose, okay, by and large, is to sell ad space. So no matter what it is, whether it's a soap opera, a Super Bowl, a Sugar Bowl, an Orange Bowl, you know, those are to support an industry. So the industry puts entertainment in front of the viewer or the listener in order to sell their ad space, to sell their product. So it is a vehicle to sell product or to generate revenue. So the purpose when they select a group, whether it is, you know, a gender, a culture, whatever that is going to get the ratings up, that is what they're going to use in order to power their business model. Most people do not know that, so they take what they see in print, or they take what they see in the magazines or on television, on radio, what they hear on radio, and they begin to create the backdrop of their truth behind what it is that the advertisers have come up with to sell to them. And all it is to keep the eyes and the ears glued in a specific position in order to keep you on long enough for you to get to that commercial. Most people think that the program is the content. The content is not the program. The content is the ads that run the program. So they need to keep you hooked in long enough in order for you to get to that commercial. And if you ever noticed, when the commercial comes on, the commercial is just slightly louder. That's because they know during that time, oh, they may be walking out of the room, maybe to get a drink or something else. Let's make sure that we pump the volume up on that commercial so that they can hear when they move to another room. So you come back in and you get back into what you think is the programming, which it is, it's programming, and you get your mind programmed. So, you know, we have to look at that and really put that in its perspective as far as why are certain groups targeted, you know? And it doesn't matter what the group is. It's what is in the headline that is going to generate more eyes and ears, more listeners. If they feel that telling a good story is going to do it, then you'll see good stories on there. But that's usually not the case. It's usually something that's a little more salacious in order to get people to, ooh, let me get that popcorn and start listening. Oh my gosh, did you hear what that said? And then people begin to share that on social media, which is why you don't see me share a whole lot of stuff on social media, because I understand what that model is.
Wow.
If I could just
yes,
if I could just piggyback on Jason's point there, and I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but I do need to
go
say
ahead.
that.
You got a free zone here. Go ahead.
When he was talking about, you know, when he said media and ad space, a name came to mind, and I'm not picking on him. I know he's a favorite of a lot of women, but Steve Harvey has a little bit of a problem when it comes to his theory about manhood and masculinity. As many of the viewers here probably know, he is a self-proclaimed expert, and I put that in scare quotes for a reason, on manhood. But if you listen to him carefully, what you get from him is two disturbing ideas. One, women, regardless of what they do, are always worthy of a man's deepest loyalty and affection. And men, regardless of what they do, are stupid. He says that repeatedly. And as Jason said a moment ago, when we watch television, it's called programming for a reason, because there are people who watch him. And now it's even worse, right? Because 20 years ago, if the show came on and you weren't at home, you just missed it. But now you can get on your phone and go to YouTube, and you can go to the Steve Harvey Show YouTube channel, and you can just watch those videos over and over again. And every time you watch it, you're reinforcing your mind with the false idea that women are not really responsible for much of anything and that men are stupid. And when you walk away with that mindset, it affects the way women see relationships. And if there was one thing I could get women to see today about men, it is that most men die twice.
Woo. Say that again. Say
most,
that again.
Most men die twice. Their physical death and their funeral is a belated pronouncement of a much earlier emotional and psychological demise. Most men die, and I'm gonna, I preach from time to time, and one of these days I'm gonna preach a sermon, and I'm gonna call it The Walking Dead, because there's men, particularly men in Christian communities, and when you add race on top of it, now you have Black men in Christian communities, and each one of those levels of identity, Black and Christian, brings with it its own cultural baggage that tells men, keep your mouth shut. Happy wife, happy life. It's your job to get on your cross and die for your wife, etc. And I'm thinking to myself, I thought Jesus died on the cross so I didn't have to suffer. And yet here I am suffering more and more. And the other thing I want women to take away from this, and men too, is that men deal with emotional trauma very differently from women.
Yes, yes, say that again.
Men, we process things very differently. So
are you hearing, ladies?
for an example from my own experience, right?
Yeah.
And I want the Christian women who are listening to this to really understand. If you're a man and you claim to be a Christian, your sexual, erotic, and romantic attraction is restricted to one woman in the world, and that's your wife. And when your wife tells you, as my ex-wife told me, that you are not worthy of having sex with me and that I am going to declare celibacy in this marriage until such time as you comply with the demands that I'm setting down. When that happens, if you're a man and you take your Christianity seriously, there could be 1 million women lined up ready to have sex with you. It doesn't matter because you are restricted to one woman in the world, and that's your wife. And when your wife tells you that you are unworthy of that, right? Imagine the emotional devastation to a man who's trying to be a Christian man. A man who's trying to do the right thing. Now, I'm sure the other brothers on this panel will admit, none of us are perfect. I'm not perfect. I got a lot of flaws. But when you get married, you sign up for your spouse's imperfections. What you don't sign up for is to have your emotional and psychological well-being systematically and steadily undermined to the point where you feel like killing yourself.
Wow.
And this is what happened to me.
Wow.
And if I had done what I was planning to do, which was put a gun in my mouth and blow my brains through the top of my head, believe me, my funeral would have been a belated pronouncement of a life and a spirit that had died long before that.
Wow.
And there are real problems that men face with suicide. There are real problems that men face with lacking self-worth and feeling like they're even human. And when you see a man and he seems depressed or lethargic and he seems like he just can't go on anymore, don't call him lazy, don't call him shiftless, don't call him trifling. When he doesn't have any ambition to do for you anymore in that relationship, don't say he's no good. After all, he may already be dead.
Wow. Oh my.
I would,
Ooh, we. Matthew Courtney.
if I can, to first of all, I would like to amen and give you a high five from where I'm standing at now, my brother. I feel your pain and I do understand. And on that note, you know, I think that even him coming from like a standpoint of being black, okay, being male, being black, and then being Christian, I can relate to all of those. And so trying to, you know, do the right thing as a Christian brother, as a man of God, and being dealt with from like that same perspective, I can feel your pain. But the plight that I have a problem with, the plight that, you know, that I want to deal with is because I think that we, particularly males, you know what I mean, in general, but particularly the black male, I think that we are public enemy number one. That's the way I feel. Public enemy number one, because we go out and we fight against all the circumstances, you know what I'm saying, that are stacked up against us outside, and then we have to fight against the circumstances that's stacked up against us when it comes to, you know what I'm saying, like my brother was saying, with whether it be wives, you know, our women, you know what I'm saying, not supporting or not acknowledging the fact that we have emotions, not acknowledging the fact that we are subject to be hurt just as they are, and especially in the situation with my brother, as he was speaking about the sexual standpoint, and using that as a tool and as a weapon to destroy a brother and break him down to one of his most minutest points in life. I mean, you're a person's spouse, and you use that, and it's kind of like that's Jezebelic. You know what I'm saying? That's like Jezebelic, and it's like really you use that to usurp a brother's authority, to usurp authority. Males are it was created to walk in authority, to be in authority, to be the head, you know what I mean, to protect. And so it's kind of like, you know, you on the other team. It's kind of like you're on the other team, fighting against the one that you want to protect you, support you, but it's on the same token. It's kind of like counterintelligence. J. Edgar Hoover introduced the counterintelligence program. He was working from both sides. He decoyed, and when, you know, would go in and send in FBI, they would go into churches, they would go and they would play the part, but at the same token, be turning it down from the inside or infiltrating it from the inside. And so I feel we're being infiltrated from the inside, from within.
Whoa, say that again. Say that again.
From within.
Wow.
A woman is supposed to protect, women are supposed to protect their spouses, their men. They are the rib. And if you study it medically, they are the rib that will protect the heart. But yet you stick a dagger in it when you're supposed to protect it.
Woo.
It's kind of one of those things where you're playing the game of chess, right? The queen protects the king. You know, some of these, the plight of men is in some of the numbers, right? So I got a few numbers. My brother here, Dr. Timothy Golden, talked about him wanting to put a gun in his mouth and blow the top of his head off. Out of all the suicides, 80% are men. 80%. 70% of homicides, men. Okay? You talk about rape, we talk about a lot of different issues and stuff like that out there, but as far as rape, men are the worst as far as suffering from rape. Over 300 100,000 rapes happen each year to men. We don't see that in the media. We don't hear that.
Wow. Wow.
Talking about suffering in silence, talking about manhood. We're built for relationships, right? So within those relationships, as we're building these relationships, what I want the women to know is that what we do as men, we do for you. We do for you. It's why we get up. It's why we go to work. It's why we do the things that we do. Because men, most men that I know love their families. If they have families, they love their wives. They want to provide, they want to protect. They want to give. What we do for you.
Wow. 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 Well, thank you, Matthew. I'm going to bring Greg in now. I want to support what you just said now, Matthew, about his statistics, because many of you know that I have a doctor of nurse practice, and one of the things that I researched was men suicide. And here's the thing that many people do not know: the number of women that attempt suicide is high, right? But the number of those that complete it is men. And many people don't know that, because all we see is women trying to commit suicide. All we see is women being pumped in and out. But the thing is, the number of the people that actually complete suicide is men. And if we begin to look at that, perhaps that will help us to want to find out, why is it that the number of women that are attempting is higher, but those that complete it is men. So Greg, let me welcome you into this space. I just told the men to introduce themselves, to talk a little bit about what they know, what they think. The number one thing they think is the plight of modern day men. What do you think the plight is today in regards to the media and all these things that is going on in the media with rape and all these things? What is the plight of a mother? What do you think is number one thing that can just come out of your mind now, that this is it for men? Oh, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
I think the media is trying to emasculate men, especially black men. If you look at a lot of black men, Tyler Perry always dressed up as Medea. They put Wesley Snipes, in the movie he made, I forget what the guy, right? With the dress on, right?
I never thought about that. Wow.
Yeah, you look at a lot of black men, right? And they ask Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle talked about it. They said, we want you to wear a dress. It ain't happening here. He said, it ain't happening here. And they're like, but why, Dave? We can give you a lot more money. You can get more. He said, it ain't happening here. So I think the media is trying to emasculate the man, right? They're trying to make all of us men, and listen, you can still be hard. You can still give discipline, but you can still be the man who cries when his baby girl is born.
There you
go. But to me, it seems like right now, they're trying to turn every man into Caitlyn Jenner, right? I won't call Caitlyn. Listen, I was speaking at an event in Wyoming, and Bruce Jenner showed up, right? I said, look, there's Bruce Jenner. Someone said, Brett, that's not Bruce Jenner. I said, listen, until he has a vagina, not testicles, he's Bruce Jenner, right? And I got bashed for that. I said, you can bash me all you want, right? You talk to a preschooler, they'll say, what's the difference between a man and a woman? One has a vagina, one has a penis. It's that simple.
That's
right. So
right.
I'm not calling him no Caitlyn, but all these people around me, like, Greg, you can't, that's not you can't be hard as a man. I'm not a hard man. Mm-hmm. Listen, most of my life, I did not think I was a man, right? I have 7 sisters. I'm a family of 15, right? I raised 12 of my nieces and nephews. I have a 31-year-old daughter, a mother-in-law, wife I've known most of my life, been married 31 years. But most of my life, I did not think I was a man, right? Because I thought a man had to be something else, and I wasn't those things. I didn't smoke cigars. You know, I don't do this kind of stuff. But now at 53, I'm a man because I raised 12 of my nieces and nephews, where I raised a beautiful daughter that got a PhD, right? I'm the only one ever make it past the 9th grade of my family. So what we think of a man in 2019 is not Caitlyn Jenner. It's not the man that walks around in dresses. It's not the wussy man, right? You can still be soft, right? But a man there's a reason why a man has a lot more testosterone than a woman, right? There's a reason why I'd rather, and I'm being honest here, I don't want a woman come saving me out of a fire. I don't. I don't. And I know some strong women, right? I know some strong women. I want a man coming to get me, right? I want a woman to stand by my side.
Yeah.
And here's one thing I would tell people, because I got corrected on Sirius XM radio one time when I was doing a radio interview. You know, Jason Hodge, my brother, he knows my story, how I'm the only one ever make it past the 9th grade. All my brothers are locked up, right? My sisters are prostitutes, all the way up to like age 60 something. So I want these men to understand this. This is one thing I want to correct men on. Well, my daughter and my family knows, don't ever call me when I'm in a meeting or something, right? So my daughter calls and the producer says, Mr. Walker, your daughter's calling. I said, she ain't supposed to call me. She kept calling me, right? So then my phone started buzzing. I'm like, what's she doing? Because she knows she ain't supposed to call me. Finally, I picked up the phone because I thought it would be something important. And she says, listen, Daddy. She calls me Daddy when she gets mad at me, right? She says, listen, Daddy, you need to correct yourself before you wreck yourself. I said, what are you talking about? She said, did I just hear the husband of my mother, right? The husband of my mother, my mother say, behind every great man is a greater woman. I said, yeah. She said, you better correct that. Beside every great man is a greater woman, right? As my daughter said, Dad, you are not a Muslim, you're a Christian. My mother walks side by side with you. So I just want to let the men know, stop saying that women walk behind us. They walk beside us, because my wife is the reason why I'm the second largest Subway franchisee in Ohio. She is the reason that I made it out of school. My wife is the reason why I went to the World Championship Public Speaking after only 5 months in Toastmasters, when I did not speak until age 11 because of abuse of my father, and I did not start speaking professionally until age 48. She is the reason why I just went to London, England. They paid me $25,000 to speak. But I want men to understand, stop saying behind, right? Because when someone just said, it's the queen that protects the king in chess, that's absolutely right. We have to start showing these women that we are men, right? Men, not someone who's just always hard, because we all see those men. Those men are usually single when they can't show their soft spot. Listen, I'll cry at the dime of a hat, right? My sister Florida, who got me to come on here, right? We talk a lot. There's situations that happen in both of our lives. I'm not afraid to sit there and say, I'm a grown man, I'll cry, right? So we have to tell other men, it's okay to cry, but then we have to draw the point. Don't let society try to put dresses on us. If you want to wear a dress, that's cool. That's cool. I don't think listen, I'm going to speak for my brother, but I don't think it's for Jason Hodge and the Big Dreamer. I don't. So I think society is trying to emasculate a lot of men. When you watch the news and stuff, they're trying to say that all men are like R. Kelly or like that Harvey Weinstein. Are you kidding me? We have to walk on eggshells now. With all of my employees, I have to walk on eggshells because someone will say, hey, you better watch out. You can't say that to that employee, right? You can't say that. What do you mean I can't say that to the employee? I can say that to the employee. That's not sexual harassment. So they're putting us men on eggshells so much that it's getting ridiculous right now. We have to be men. We have to stand strong for our women, right? We have to be strong for our women, and then the women has to give us something to be strong for, right? They said respect a woman, but a woman also has to give the man something to respect. So I think I think the plight of society now is to emasculating us men, and we have to stop it. We have to say, you know what, we're going to speak up. We can't be afraid not to speak up.
If I could just back on what Greg was saying. I'm sorry, is somebody else? Okay, yeah, I was hearing an echo. Thank you. If I could just piggyback on what Greg is saying, when I go to men's conferences, and I speak at men's conferences, and most of the time when I speak there, the typical men's conference, particularly in Christianity, is one where men get lectured and they get told that they're not doing enough, and they get told that they need to step it up and that they need to be more of a man, and they get told all the things that they're doing wrong. I just want to suggest that there are men out there who do everything that society tells them they're supposed to do and still come up empty-handed. And that's the kind of man that I'm interested in ministering to in my ministry for men that emerges out of my own experience. Because I can tell you right now that most of the men that I know do not fit into the lazy, don't work, don't take care of their kids, ignore their wife, trifling sort of paradigm. In fact, most of the men that I know go overboard for their wives and try to treat them well, and they still come up empty-handed because of these societal and cultural influences that feed into the desires of women for material things or for more affection or for more of whatever it is that they want that their husbands can't provide. And I'm not a bad husband if I can't give my wife the same life that Prince Harry is able to give Meghan Markle. I'm not. Sister Princess, you were talking about women having a watch party. Last May, when Meghan Markle married Prince Harry, there were women, many Black women throughout the country who had watch parties, who watched it. And I'm wondering how many of those women left the watch parties and went home and looked askance at their husbands because their husbands couldn't give them a wedding with horse-drawn carriages, because their husbands couldn't give them what Prince Harry's wealth was able to give to Meghan Markle. And so these are the influences. I keep going back to Jason's point about programming. People, we have to start to rethink why we want some of the things that we want. What is really important to us? And so these influences are real. And one last point before I go off again is I want to say that the plight of men, the plight of the abused man is worsened. And Sister Princess, you may understand this as someone in the healthcare field. In the therapeutic community, the understanding or the paradigm of abuse is that the man is the abuser and the woman is the victim. Mm-hmm. And this is so deeply entrenched in the clinical community that when I was looking for therapy, for recovery from my own emotional abuse as a man, that when I said to the therapist over the phone, hey, do you think, have you ever worked with abused men? She laughed at me. The very concept of an abused man is foreign to most people because we always associate abuse, one, with the physical, and two, with women. And this is part of the problem. I had to talk to 4 different therapists before I found one who took me seriously. And before I looked for therapy, I went to the church, and the church didn't take me seriously. And as most of the women listening know, the church doesn't even take the emotional abuse of women serious, or the physical abuse of women seriously. So you know the church doesn't take seriously the emotional abuse of men, and yet we claim to be a part of a religion in Christianity that's supposed to be all about the person and all about righteousness and all about this. And yet when I'm in trouble, I turn to the church for help, and all I get is man up, pray to Jesus. Jesus will make it better. You got to suck it up. You got to be a man. And then when I turn to the therapeutic community for help, I'm getting laughed at. And so when a man, now all of a sudden the man starts to feel trapped. And when a man starts to feel trapped, and when the pain is so severe that he doesn't know if it's ever going to end, he begins to think that he would be better off dead. And that's what got me to the brink of suicide. And so again, I'm not going to rest until such time as the emotional abuse of men is taken as seriously and with the same degree of urgency as the physical and emotional abuse of women. So I just wanted to make those points.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah.
Now,
I'd like to chime in real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, and this goes to what Greg was talking about, and also what Timothy, actually what all of the gentlemen said, and it comes down to this: the majority of the people who are anchored to media don't understand history. So that is why things can be continually run cyclically. And by that, I mean, Greg pointed out about the emasculation of men. Now, when we look at historically where this came from, when the people of ancestral descent were brought over here on the ships, okay? Now, forget about the ones who have been over here before slavery, okay? Because that's a whole other conversation. But the ones who were brought over on the ships and who were broken in front of the community of fellow people of color, they went through a breaking process where they raped the men in front of, and they would pick the strongest men that they could find in order to break them and to make them the woman for that slave master. And what they did was they showed to that community, see, even your strongest fall to us. It was psychological warfare. And so they don't do it like that now. What they do now is they use the media to propagate that. And how do they do that? By putting men in dresses. By putting people of color in dresses, men, black men in dresses. And so what that does psychologically to the country is saying, see, even you're strong. And they don't just put a no name in a dress. You have to get to a certain prominence before you are now at the point where they can now break you in front of your community. Let's put them in a dress now. So when we don't understand that, we don't know what we're looking at. And when we don't know what we're looking at, we buy into it and we say, hey, that's great entertainment. Did you see that movie where Wesley Snipes had on a dress? Did you see that latest thing where Kevin Hart, who said that he wouldn't wear a dress, is now in a dress? So they have now shown that, yes, he said he wouldn't, and then we broke him. And just like we're going to break you. So then when you see all these movements coming around and you hear the statistics that are being thrown at the wind, if you are not accustomed to saying, let me verify that piece of information, okay, holding up the quotes, that you have put out there, let me verify that and see, where are you deriving that information? From what organization? From whence did it come? Because you will dig and find that the organization that it came from is the same organization that is perfectly positioned for your genocide. Okay, we're talking about Planned Parenthood. We're talking about Martha Sanger. We're talking about the eugenics movement. Okay, this is probably a little deeper than, this particular conversation warrants, but it is the pieces of the puzzle that we miss when we just look at things compartmentalized. Compartmentalizing the things that happen in media means that you don't understand that there is a back end to this whole picture. Why does media exist in the first place? It's definitely not for your entertainment. It is for your programming. So when I can deliver a message to you, and in marketing, we say it's 7 to 12 impressions before you get a yes. Okay? If I can get you to nod your head yes 7 to 12 times, I've got you. So how do I deliver that message? Dripping it over and over. Everywhere you turn, you're seeing the same message reinforced. You see it in print, you see it in slogans, you see it in logos and logo type that people have. You think that those designs that they come up with are just, oh, that was a great logo. You don't understand. That logo has a root. It has an anchor somewhere. And if you don't know the history, you don't realize that you've just now taken a culture which has cultural norms and you have embedded it in your consciousness as to this is how we live our lives. So when you see men who are being emasculated through different campaigns that are out there, different hashtags that are out there, and then you buy into that and you don't research further, well, wait a minute. You made this claim. Where's the proof? Where's the substance of your claim? Let me dig into that. To do that, then you are branded with, oh, you are a supporter of victimization as opposed to a seeker of truth. You've got to be at that point where you're like, I cannot trust what media is saying. I need to do my research. And I need to back up that research so that when I speak, I'm speaking from knowledge, not from somebody else's supposition. So there's a big problem and a big elephant in the room that people are not willing to look at and then to call out. We have to start calling it out, or we are looking at genocide in the making.
Oh my goodness. Matthew and Courtney, on this platform, we often talk about tear the veil, right? And with us, we give women the opportunity to tear the veil on something or an event in their lives. And so for us, we really believe that this is a place and an opportunity for you men to tear the veil on issues. Thank you so much, because just me listening to you alone in just these few minutes, there are some nuggets that I'm taking away, ding, 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 in my own marriage too. That, as you guys were saying, it was like, dang, 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 dang. I messed up here. I messed up in this area. I messed up in that area. So I want to thank you so much, because ever so often, right, we get carried away. We get carried away with all the things that's going on with women. And like we said, we forget about men. So now I want us to start tearing the veil. I want our men to tear the veil on some issues that you really, really are passionate about. I want to say one thing. On the news, we see men, right? Some particular men that are being featured as rapists, as this, as you know what I'm talking about. What went wrong, in your own opinion, if it is true, because we know there's some that are true, and we know there's some that are, you have to think back and say, is this really true, right? So if we have a man that it is true that this man has a history of rape, what in your own perspective, walk us through the mind of a man like that? What should we know?
Can I address that real quick?
Yes.
Okay. I have to look at it from this standpoint. And it's the big why question. All right. Not if this is true for this person or not. The big why is this person being the target for this and the face of this? Okay. Why is it important to unearth? Now, if we're talking about the latest things that come out, you're now exhuming dead people, but you're not exhuming all the dead people. Okay. You are highlighting prominent figures in a specific community, but you're not highlighting the prominent figures that are running the industry that have established pedophilia rings. Okay? Nobody's questioning that. You're in pictures with the establishers of these rings where they are abusing children and women and men in order to gain certain prominence. But you aren't calling them out, you're calling out dead people because you have a platform. See, that is where the people with the high platforms have been given they've been putting on the dresses now. All right? You're now at a certain platform. We can use you in a certain way now. Here's your next assignment. And it is to disseminate, or to dismantle a gender of a specific hue in the public's eye, because we need to continue to reduce them to animals. Now, from a historical standpoint, you have to look at what was done before a genocide occurred, or the attempt at a genocide occurred in our European states. There was a dismantling of who a specific people were before the camps started being opened. What is happening here? There is a dismantling of the value of a specific people, the value of a specific gender, and now I'm wondering, are camps being opened now? Maybe a little deep for this conversation, but that's a question that we have to ask. What's actually happening here that we are turning a blind eye to? Why is it that the very ones who are establishing rings of rape and pedophilia and abuse are not being addressed? Is it the money because they're cutting the checks so they are untouchable? And what made the others touchable? Was it because they weren't cutting the checks? It just looked like they were cutting the checks? What's happening here?
Wow. Matthew and Courtney.
And you were speaking on the subject of rape, and you said what would actually be going on in the head or in the thinking of a man, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
That's the question you want?
Yes.
I think it boils down to, firstly, the devaluing. I think that a person with that mindset, they devalue the victim or the person that they're raping. Whether it be male or female, they devaluing that other individual. There's no value. There's no value. On the other token, a person like that could have been a victim themselves, and it could be a hurting person. They say that hurting people hurt others. Hurting people hurt others. And so if they, maybe they were victimized, as a child, they could have been victimized by another family member, sibling. And so they go out and have the mentality or the mindset of a victimizer. And so they seek prey because they were prey. Mm-hmm. And so that kind of triggers and gives the mind, it's all down like triggering. That's a trigger. If you understand triggering, you understand the mind, every so often, you can have gotten past something or moved on from something, but something will trigger that pain. Something will trigger that experience that you had 20 years ago. And especially if it has not been addressed or dealt with properly. Hmm. And so that's what that's the way I view it. That's the way, and I think that's what would be going on with somebody, with a mindset like that. They would first devalue, and maybe that devalue will become because if they were a victim, they were devalued. I think it's kind of like the law of reciprocity. They reciprocate, what they've been given or what the experience that they have had. You know what I mean? And I think they want to pass it on to someone else. They want someone else maybe to feel their pain, feel my hurt.
Wow.
Have we looked at?
Yeah, if I could just pick up on what he said a moment ago, and I'll just mention some names so this can become concrete and real to us. when I watched the Lifetime special, Surviving R. Kelly, I saw something that almost no one is talking about, which is the fact that early on in that documentary, it was firmly established that R. Kelly was the victim of sexual abuse as a child. But nobody talks about that. There's no discussion about what he went through as a child. And the sad part about it is that in Black communities, because nobody wants to, quote, put their family's business in the street, we have this culture of concealment and dishonesty. And it not only applies to sexual abuse, but it creeps into the church. And so it creeps into the church and it applies to sexual abuse because R. Kelly grew up in a church household where he attended church. But these are the parts of the documentary that nobody talks about, right? So in the Black community and in many Christian communities, there's a pervasive culture of dishonesty and concealment and fraudulent masculinity that tells men you're less of a man if you share what's hurting you or if you share your pain. And so there'll be a lot of people, I'm sure, happy as they can be and dancing in the streets when R. Kelly gets locked under the jail. But how many more R. Kellys are now in the making because we refuse to pay attention to the sexual assault and trauma of young Black boys? So what we're doing right now is equivalent to mowing the lawn and believing that we're getting rid of the weeds. You're not. You're going to mow the lawn, but it's going to grow back. How many future R. Kellys are now in the making? I don't know if people understand. One of the reasons for R. Kelly's musical success is because of his pain. It's because of his trauma. It's because of the trauma, because he couldn't tell anybody directly about it. So we have to understand, you know, I mean, and I guess I'm talking to the Christians who are listening here, that we are made in the image of a God who does his best creative work in the dark. In Genesis 1, it says that God created the heavens and the earth, and at the time he created it, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. So here are you and I, men and women, living in the 21st century, and our artistic and creative capacities flourish at a time, flourish the most at a time when our lives are the darkest. Because that's the way God made us, right? And so, you know, what is in the mind of that rapist? I couldn't say it better than, I think it's Courtney. I'm sorry if I got your name. Is it Courtney? Yeah. Courtney said it best. Hurt people hurt people. And when you don't pay attention, now, like I said, we could lock R. Kelly under the jail. It's not going to change a thing. It's not going to change a thing. Am I sad for the women that have been traumatized? Absolutely. Do I think that R. Kelly should get off scot-free? Absolutely not. Okay? But the point is that the American legal system is not designed to address our moral outrage. The American legal system has limits to it. As a Black person, I can't tell you how badly I want to see every police officer that shoots and kills an unarmed Black person convicted and sent to prison. But the legal system is not there to grant my wishes. It's not there, because if it was, I would put a lot of people in jail, right? But the legal system is there to protect rights and protect legal obligations. And there's a difference between what is legal and what is right. And we can be happy all the day long that R. Kelly will go away to jail, but there are thousands of more R. Kellys in the making, mostly because of the historical circumstances that Jason talked about, where Black men have historically been raped and have been sexual tools of white men. But that's what nobody wants to talk about.
Right. That's right.
And so we overlook that conversation at our own peril. Courtney said it best: hurt people, and they're going to keep on hurting people until we address their hurt. And let me just say one more thing. I'm very sorry to go on, but I just want to make this point too, which is that I feel badly for women who are abusers because they themselves have been hurt.
Yes.
And they have traumas that have not been addressed. I feel that way about my situation. I think my ex-wife has a lot of untreated trauma, right? And until those instances of untreated trauma are addressed, the cycle of abuse will continue on, and we can pray, and we can go to church, we can sing hymns, and we can ask Jesus to take it away, but God will never do for us in the supernatural where the natural has yet to exhaust itself. And so when there are things that we can do, we can't wait and inauthentically avoid responsibility by saying, well, I prayed about it. We have to wake up and accept some of that responsibility and begin to deal with this trauma and these issues in our community. Otherwise, this is just going to get worse and worse and worse.
Well, I tell you what, I'm going to, okay. I want to make sure I'm not echoing. When I finish talking, then Matthew and then Craig. Now, y'all are killing me here. Y'all are really just, y'all are just hitting. Last night, I sat here and I was just watching a little bit of that R. Kelly discussion with Gail. And I remember saying to my husband, I said, you want to know what's sad about this? I said, this moment that we're watching, this guy is probably on his way out. He's going to kill himself some way, somehow. And this tape that we're watching is what the media is going to play over and over and over. I just sensed it in my spirit last night. I said, oh, wow. If he got a chance, if they know what I see now, he should be on a suicide watch. I said, but nobody's saying that. I said, well, I was abused before, so don't get me wrong. I was abused before. So I could easily be laughing, but there was nothing for me to laugh about. I couldn't find anything. I tried, but I just couldn't. What I found was sad. What I found was systems that have failed. And just like Dr. Gordon said, we can laugh, we can smile, we can be happy about this. Right now, at this hour, there is another R. Kelly being burned into existence. Right now, in all of our places right now, in all of our tribes, whatever we might want to call it, there's another R. Kelly right now that is being made. And the best thing that we could do, even for us who have been abused before, is to find solutions for men so that our men, as they raise up, as we raise them up, they do not turn out like that. Because I don't think anybody on the face of this earth will wake up and say, this is what I want to become. But
you know what?
We failed this man. We failed it.
Here's the sad part.
And yesterday, I was a little bit scared. I said, well, if I say this thought out, people will say, what's wrong with Princess? What is she talking about? But that's how I felt. I felt sadness. And I said, wow, look at this. We are watching somebody about to die. And we're watching the media putting things in order that they will continue to play over and over and say, when he was alive, this is what happened. When he was, Matthew, what do you have to say?
So I have one word that just keeps ringing in my head, and it's protection. And the reason why I'm getting that word because fathers are to protect, right? So Dr. Golden said something that Jason said, that when you go back and we heard that R. Kelly, he was raped. So you're looking at a small microcosm of a bigger problem, right? So now ancestrally, right, you would say that the biggest and the baddest and the meanest was broken down in front of society. It's ancestral rape at its worst form, because now you have a systemic problem that's not just localized with the individuals, it's now racial, it's within the Black community. And so I go back to protection, because now that the father is not there, the child's not being protected, to shield him from that. You understand what I'm saying? From that hurt. I can't get into the mind of somebody who would rape, but I can understand how systemically around him, how it will be allowed to happen. It goes back again to fatherlessness. Fatherlessness is what is happening. And it's with us being men, not just Black men, but all men being foundational for their family. But specifically for Black men, how the type of abuse that has happened has not been seen anywhere. There's a story that I like to take. I take it from the book of lessons. I like to minister at certain times too. And his name in the Bible was Mephibosheth. So not only do I want to bring this point out, but also to encourage men who also may be listening. Mephibosheth was of the first dynasty of the royal house of Israel. He was part of that line, King Saul. But due to not his own fault, he was lame. He was made lame. Because he was made lame, when King David came to him, his self-identity now. So I want to talk about, how do we fix the problem? How do we fix the problem from years and years and centuries, really, of abuse? We have to do it here. Because when King David came to him, now mind you, Mephibosheth was of the royal house. When he came to him, what he said, for the past couple of months, this thing has just been on my brain. What do you want to do with this dead dog? Dead dog, even smaller than the flea, he said. But yeah, he was a royal house. So my encouragement to not only me, to all the men on the panel, and also men who may be listening, is that there was a covenant that was made, that was set in order even before he was born, between Jonathan and King David. That's why the king said, I'm going to create and to make some kindness to any of the house of Saul. Anybody left from the house of Jonathan? Anybody left from the house of Jonathan? It was Mephibosheth. So the king is coming to show you kindness, to bring you back out from where he was living. He was living in Lodabar. So men, take a look at where you are. Look around you in your society. Where are you living? Are you living in Lodabar? I'm here to tell you that God is going to strengthen your legs. He's not only going to strengthen you, but you're also in the story. King David commissioned men to plant for him, to bring in the vegetables for him. And he sat at the king's table for the rest of his life. But God is going to strengthen your legs. You'll no longer be lame. So to get to fixing this problem, we have to deal with our minds. We have to reverse the curse. Reverse the hypnosis. You know what I'm saying? To get back to where we need to be, to protect our families, to be fathers again, right? You can go back, right, to numbers. I'm a numbers guy. To the fatherlessness and how it has affected society. Case in point, 63% of youth suicides are from fatherless homes. 90% of runaways and homelessness are from fatherless homes. 85% of children who show behavioral problems are from fatherless homes. Right? 80% of rapists that have anger problems, 14 times the national average. 71% of all dropouts, 9 times the national average, fatherless homes. So what can we do? We have to get the fathers back into the homes, but we have to deal with the mentalities. We have to deal with the emotional abuse. We have to deal with the media. We have to deal with the emasculation. We have to deal with why we're hurt. Because hurt people are hurting others, as you said, eloquently put. Wow.
I just want to chime in on the father, you know what I'm saying, the fatherlessness piece and the statistics. I would like to chime in on that. And I would like to do that like from a biblical perspective. That's been the plot all along. So if you go back into the history of the Bible, even into the Old Testament, the decree or the mandate that was given, it was to kill or destroy everything that would urinate against the wall. I'm talking about males now. That order was given, it was given to kill off the male. Why? Because the male is foundational. You know what I mean? The father is foundational. It's the head, it's the support, it's the protection. But this has been a mandate. And that's why it runs throughout the fabric of society. That's why it runs throughout the fabric of the church. It runs throughout the fabric of the family. That's why, So, because like I said, we have been marked. I remember I'm from the South, and the old people would say, you've been picked out to be picked on. You've been picked out to be picked on. There's a mark on your back. And so that's when I said we're public enemy number one. So that's what we have to understand, the attacks that come against us, and particularly, the attacks that of black male. And I don't want to racialize everything, because this is about the male, period. This is about the structure of the home, period. This is about, the family, period. We all got wives, black, white, Mexican, whatever color, So we all have families. We all have families. And so this is not limited to just one particular group of people, one particular race. The male is trying to be extinguished, period. Removed from the equation, as you see in the emasculating in the media, wearing dresses. We see different moves of homosexuality and lesbianism. Two enemies right there to emasculate, to destroy the fabric of family. And so this is what I believe that women should understand about the male. We are on the hit list. When we leave our homes to go out to work, when we go out into society, we have to fight out here. We have to go out here and grind tooth and nail. And then when we come home, why should we have to fight with our female counterparts?
Mm.
We need support in order to support you, in order to protect you. When you're drowning, when a man is drowning, a person is drowning, you know, they'll reach at a straw, they'll reach at a net. And so sometimes when they panic, what you have to do is you have to, and I'm not condoning, and by any means, domestic violence, putting your hand on a woman, but they have to kind of like knock them out in order to save them, if that makes sense. So what I'm saying is, when you go into a panic mode, you have to understand that you may get a little hysterical and not understand the fact that we as men are trying our best to save you, as though we were saving a drowning man. So we would have to put him in a certain maneuver, and knock him out to bring him to safety. That's all I want you to understand is, like my brother said, we are doing it for you. So it's about trying to not being misunderstood and misunderstanding our emotions or the way we process or the way we deliver. You know what I mean? So I just wanted to get that point across. But we are on a hit list. And my thing is, I don't want to remain on the hit list of my female counterpart. Not understanding why we operate, do what we do, process the way we process. Sometimes, you know, we may come home as a husband, you know, and you may misunderstand our fight out there as not wanting to hear what you have to say. A brother been fighting for his life. You know, and he got something on his mind that he just left from, you know what I'm saying, where he's trying to survive. You know, and so once he comes into the house, he's trying to, you know what I'm saying, he's really trying to collect his thoughts. It's not about ignoring you. It's not about don't want to talk to you. It's not about not being sensitive. But it's about balance, I think. And I think that's what this whole community, that's what I like about what's being done here, is because it's bringing balance. Everything must have balance.
Yes.
Where there's no balance, you have to have balance in everything we do. We have to balance our times, balance our schedule, so we have to balance it all. And that's where I think the solution lies, most of the solution lies within balance and understanding that model is whereby we must balance everything.
Thank you so much. Greg, I have a question for you. Greg. Sharon says, what about the homes who have a husband and father in the home, and yet that husband and father abuses the wife and children? Greg, I want you to answer that. And then I think Jason want to say something, I think. Greg?
Oh, okay, let me say hit on this first. First of all, I don't know if I've heard anybody say, have we talked about personal responsibility with R. Kelly? Because it's a myth, you know, that people who are hurt. That's a myth. It's been proven over and over and over. No, sick people hurt people, because there's probably 7 out of 10 people have been abused. They don't go around hurting people, right? So we have to talk about personal responsibility. And then when we talk about otherwise fatherless homes, where's the biggest fatherless home in America? The church. Anyone ever heard of a PK kid? Preacher's kid? Right? I have a lot of pastor friends. I say, when's the last time you TD Jakes, right? He hid that his daughter got pregnant like 13 or 14. He was, and the daughter says, Daddy was never home. Daddy was out there rescuing every other child, but Daddy wasn't there for me. So we have to talk about that too. We have to see, we men have to hold other people accountable, right? I'm not afraid to go to my preacher friend and say, when's the last time you went to Tony's basketball game? When's the last time you took your baby to a daughter dance? You out there saving everyone else, but you look at your kids shooting up heroin, but you got a 15,000 congregation church. So we have to speak truth. We have to call people out. And with the young black men, right? The worst enemy to young black men are the white liberals. The white liberals, right? Because they're saying in the gay community, the lesbian, right? LBTG, whatever it is, they're saying we don't need a man in the home. You don't need a man in the home. You don't. So the white liberal, that's the demon, right? Because they're telling people you don't need to listen. Listen, Sharita, LaQuanda, you can raise that boy on your own. You can raise that boy on you. You don't need no man in that house, right? So people start listening. Okay, maybe we don't. Look, they're living a good life, right? We men have to stick up, right? My wife and I, we love children, right? When we're on the front lines, listen, I grew up in an all-black neighborhood, right? My wife and I are the only 2 white kids there. Where are all the Planned Parenthoods at? Listen, they're not where my $1 million home is right now here in Columbus, Ohio. There's no, but listen, I'm driving down to one of my friend's grandparents' house where I grew up at. 2 Planned Parenthoods. Do we see any black men or men down there? No, we see women. It's time that men stand up, right? And Margaret Sanger, right? But the white liberals say, no, Margaret Sanger wasn't. Listen, look what she read, The Extermination of the Negro, right? But these white liberals say, no, Margaret Sanger was a good woman. Where do you see the Planned Parenthoods? You don't see them in my $1 million neighborhood, right? You see them in neighborhoods that look like y'all. But there's no men on the front. If there is men down there, it's the Nation of Islam. And I praise them. I'm a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. But I praise those brothers for being out there because they see what's happening. Because Margaret Sanger was right. Right? If we exterminate the Negro and mostly the male Negro, right? So we have to step up. We have to say to our preacher friends, spend time with your son and daughter so they don't start becoming heroin addicts. They don't get pregnant at 13 years old. And then we have to have accountability, right? I hear so many people taking up for R. Kelly. You got to say R. Kelly's got to take personal responsibility for himself, right? Take personal responsibility. Things can happen, but and then where were the men? Where are the men and the parents with those young girls? See, there's not enough personal responsibility. And we have to hold R. Kelly accountable. We have to say, you did Harvey Weinstein, Donald Trump. Those men have to be held accountable, right? They have to be held accountable because there's too many people making excuses for them. I hear people talk about Donald Trump making excuses. I hear people make excuses about Harvey Weinstein. And now with R. Kelly, take responsible accountability for what you do.
Thank you for saying that.
Princess, I'm
this
sorry.
is what I love this platform. I love this platform for its diversity. So go ahead.
I just have to express disagreement, a very strong disagreement with my brother Greg. I appreciate his point of view and his perspective, but I would love to see some hard data about abused people and the cycle of abuse that shows that abused people don't abuse people. I believe he said sick people hurt people. Well, yeah.
The Ohio State University. The Ohio State University did that study.
Okay.
Look it up.
Okay. Well, how did they get sick? See, we can't inject phrases like personal responsibility and expect that to make this problem go away. This is bigger than a catchphrase like personal responsibility. The fact of the matter is, R. Kelly was sexually abused as a child, and I'm not making excuses for him.
There's a lot of people who's been molested, but they ain't out there doing that to girls.
But guess what? But guess what, Greg? A lot of people react and respond to things differently. That doesn't mean that you don't pay attention to the abuse. There's a difference between excuses and explanations. I'm not excusing R. Kelly's behavior, but if you want to explain his behavior, and I believe Princess's question was, what do you think is going on in the mind of a rapist? And I used him as an example to say that you can explain his conduct by the fact that he himself was abused and he lived in a culture that was both African American and Christian, and nobody, you mentioned T.D. Jakes, one of my favorite statements of his is this: He says, quote, "The hardest thing in the world to do is get church people to tell the truth." For a group of people that claims to believe in the truth, that claims that Jesus was the truth, I ain't lying. Christians are some of the most dishonest people around. And we live in cultures, and I say this as a Black man and as a Christian, we live in cultures in Black Christian communities where Black men are not encouraged to talk about their trauma. And as long as we continue to conceal this, yeah, I mean, is R. Kelly wrong? Yeah. Should he go to prison? Of course he should. But what's going to happen? What's going to change? And if we want things to change, we have to start to address the problem at its root source. And we can't just shrug it off to say, okay, somebody committed a crime, so they got to go to jail. We have to start to have a more comprehensive understanding of what it is that makes people do what they do without excusing it. And again, I'm not excusing it, but if you want an explanation, sure. You show me 2 adults. Show me one that was sexually abused as a child and one that wasn't, and ask me which one is more likely to perpetrate that abuse in adult life. And I guarantee it's going to be the one who it happened to as a child. Yeah. So again, you know, most of these people that get convicted of these horrible crimes, they end up in jail. Some of them end up killing people and sexually abusing them, and they end up on death row. A lot of them die. But guess what? In the end, if we don't deal with what hurt them, we're just perpetrating the cycle over and over again.
I think for myself, just like everything, I really like the diversity of all of our discussions here, because this is what makes it a discussion, when we don't necessarily all have to agree on something, but we can have discussions and people can take whatever it is that they want to take out of it. I know with my own situation, like I said last night, I had I mean, it was just as strong just watching him. And it wasn't a question of being empathetic about what he did. It wasn't a question of trying to excuse him from doing it, because frankly, if I was one of those women, I don't think I would want to excuse him. I've been through a situation like that myself before, so I would never want to excuse him. But I also saw something else. And one of the things that I saw was that it was not going to be the end of it. He was not going to be the end. He can be jailed, whatever. But just like Dr. Gordon says, right now, there is another R. Kelly being burned right now. And so if we don't start talking about discussions like what Greg and everybody is talking about now, if we don't start sharing solutions so that mothers who are online watching us right now, right, those who are listening to us right now, those who are pregnant right now, about to birth, those who have already birthed a boy, those who are single homes, they can listen and say, wow, these are the things I can look out for. These are the things I could do to make sure that my own son turns out the right way. So I want us to go back to that question, Greg.
Yes.
I want us to go back to that question. What about the homes who have a husband and a father in the home that abuses their wife and children?
The woman's got to leave, right? and you don't tell. Listen, I have 7 brothers in prison, one on death row since 1982, from a father's home, right? Tina Turner left out the back door and did not see Ike for 40 years. I'm the only man who gets to speak at the women's prison here in Ohio twice a year, right? When I hear those women, they all say the same thing. Greg, I wish I would have just walked out the back door. And here's something that women never do. You never tell your abuser that you're leaving them, because they'll kill you. You don't ever tell a man you're going to leave them. Those are the women who get killed. You just leave. So that's your option. I'm not one of those people say, hey, you stick around. No, God's got plans. God said for death. That's foolishness. If a man's abusing you and your children, you get the hell out of the house.
Thank you. Thank you, Greg. I want to go back to Dr. Gordon. Let's flip that. Let's flip that question. What about a man whose wife is the abuser?
You mean like Jay-Z?
What would you say to that man?
You mean like Jay-Z?
Well, that's a good one, Greg. I think that a man, depending on the situation, and I can speak from my own experience, I actually had an extended conversation with my ex-wife, and I tried to explain to her that there was a set of behaviors that she was engaging in that was directed at me that made me feel emotionally unsafe in the marriage. And what I said to her is, I need to separate from you in order to figure out what it is I need to do. And let me just make this analogy. Pretend that you're holding a book in your hand and then put the book all the way up so that it's pressing against your face. Imagine that for a second. You can't read the book under those circumstances, can you? Because you're too close to it. So what you have to do in order to read the book so that you can understand it is you have to separate yourself from the book and put it a distance away from you so that you can read the words on the page and comprehend what's there. And at that time in my marriage, it was like I had the book pressed up against my face. And so what I explained to my ex-wife was, we need some distance between the two of us so that both of us can try to figure out what is really important to us and what it is we should be doing. Because I said, you're doing some things that are hurting me and that are undermining my self-esteem to the point where I feel worthless and I want to take my own life. And that's not healthy for me. I can't live like this. So I explained to her the reason for the separation. And I said to her, I intend to get help. I intend to get therapy. I would recommend that you do the same. And I just want to point out that, you know, Greg's point a moment ago is very good. For a woman who's suffering from physical abuse from a man or whose children are in danger, again, he's right. You don't necessarily go to your husband if he's that devious or that sick and say to him, hey, I'm leaving you. You just do it. But every situation is different. And from a man's point of view, depending upon the kind of relationship that you have with your wife and the kind of harm that you're facing. Now, there may be some instances, because there's some statistics on this. I don't know if Matthew has any. He said he's a numbers guy. There are men who suffer from physical abuse at the hands of women, but the problem is that it's underreported. So you can't go by the statistics, because men suffer a cultural and social shame from being stigmatized as weak or punks or sissies. And what man is going to go to the cops and say, my wife is beating up on me, right? And so that's another marker that we have to consider when we consider the plight of men, is this business of underreporting. But I can speak from my experience, Princess, and say that I had a conversation with my ex-wife. I tried to explain to her what was happening, and I tried to explain to her that I was going to get help. And it was very clear to me from the beginning that she did not think that she was doing anything wrong. She thought that what she was doing was justified. And, you know, a lot of people have said to me, well, what about forgiveness? What about forgiveness? You're a Christian. Well, let me just say that there's a difference between forgiveness and reconciliation.
That's right.
Forgiveness only takes one person. You can forgive a dead person. This is why God requires us to forgive others, because he's forgiven us, right? So that's forgiveness. But reconciliation takes two people. Right. And in order to reconcile, you have to come to the realization that, okay, I'm doing something wrong here. And not only am I doing something wrong, but I see it's hurting you. And not only am I doing it wrong, and I see that it's hurting you, but I'm also telling you that going forward, I'm not going to do this anymore. I mean, what woman, would any of us blame a woman if she left her husband who was physically abusive to her, and if she said, I'm willing to reconcile if he gets help, and he said, no, if you wouldn't make me so mad, I wouldn't hit you. I mean, you know, nobody, like Greg said this a moment ago, I agree with this too, you know, till death do us part. That's crazy. You don't, God's not telling you to stay in a relationship to get beat upside your head or to get systematically broken down over time with, you know, a woman who weaponizes her sexuality and uses it against you, you know? So for me, in my experience, I would say if you can have a conversation with your wife, have a conversation with her, try to explain it, try to tell her this is what's happening, be very specific, this bothers me, and if this doesn't stop, you know, I can't be your husband anymore because I can't continue to live like this. And you should be able to, if you can, you should try to have that conversation with her and make that clear. But again, like Greg said, I mean, if you're suffering from physical abuse as a man, or if you think that that kind of conversation is going to lead to something that could really do you harm, then just like a woman, you need to leave too. And that's what I would say.
Thank you for that. Jason, I have a question for you because I'm trying to look through. There's a lot of comments. I'm not too sure we're going to be able to do all these comments. But I would advise, let me see now. What I would ask of a man is after the program, if you can just go through the comments. Let me see now. Can you mute a little bit?
Say again?
Yeah, can you mute? So when I'm done, then yeah. So if you can just find time to go back on this thread and try to respond to some of it, because I'm not sure we can even get there. So many questions in there. And I know that with the replay, there's going to be even more questions because there are times we have an average of 500 comments. So I know that this is probably going to hit that. Dr. Leonora Mohammed, this is for you, Jason. Dr. Leonora Mohammed has this. It says, what can women do to help support you men and still be heard? What can we do to help support men and still be heard?
Well, one thing, well, there's a few things. Anytime that a culture is promoted in the home that a man is useless or unnecessary, that right there is killing your boys. It's literally killing your boys, because what happens with that boy who will be a man is that he is growing up into usefulness. He is expendable. So you have to, if you love your boys and you want them to grow up to be not only productive men, but men who hold up the standard of men, you have to have him around men who can help instill that in him. You cannot do that as a mother. A mother can never raise a man into a man without the input of other men. And this culture that we're in right now is that women, the message that is going forward in the media, okay, and I'm just coming from a propagandized standpoint, is that men are expendable, men are not necessary in order for people to be productive. And Greg was right when he talked about the liberal statement, is that we are seeing time and again where that message is being reinforced and reinforced and reinforced to the point where boys are no longer excited, or they no longer feel that it is a plus to be a man. And so you see that in the schools. I work in the schools. You know, I run programs in the schools. And I see a lot of kids who are challenged with gender identity, where they feel that it is better to be metrosexual or neutral on things than to actually have a solid, I'm a man, or a young man, I'm a young lady. And so those lines are blurred, and it's being made to be okay for those lines to be blurred. Now, that, if it was something other than a bigger agenda at play, that would be one thing. But there is a bigger agenda at play, and you have to dig into history in order to see what that agenda is. So I would say for mothers, it is critical that you do affirm that young man to be, and that let him know that it is okay and it is honorable for him to be a young man, and to get him around men who can affirm him as well. You know, you've got to be able to respect that young man, to give him his space to grow into that manhood.
Wow, thank you so much. Let me go to Courtney and Matthew. Andrea Ellis says this. She says, there are people, I guess men, as well, avoiding getting help because the healing journey is too painful. So what would you say to a man watching right now that is avoiding getting the help because the healing journey is painful? Oh, you guys are on mute. Okay, go ahead.
I would encourage the individual to get help, because I mean, just from my standpoint, and understanding that it is painful, you know what I mean, and to go through that journey, to go down that road, and sometimes to deal with, you know, the issues that cause the pain, you know, coming from, you know, a background where I happen to deal with that and do that myself. You know, coming from out of a you know, a home, you know, dysfunctional home, home without a father, built up a lot of hurt, a lot of disappointment, a lot of pain, and a lot of anger, a lot of rage. And so I would encourage that person to get help, because I had to, because if not, then that would destroy you from the inside out. And it will perpetuate a cycle down, you know, saying through generations. It will perpetuate a cycle down to your kids, to your children, your grandchildren. And so it has to begin with you. It has to begin somewhere, you know, and that should be with you. It had to begin with me. And I'm not perfect as of yet. I'm not totally healed as of yet. I would advise them to do that through different means, you know, spiritual. You know what I mean? There's should be some balance, a spiritual balance. You know, you may need to go in and seek help from there may be some mental trauma. You know what I mean? That you may need to go seek, you know, a mental health provider. You know, there may be some behavioral. Like I said, I am a peer support specialist or a peer support counselor, meaning I support, you know what I'm saying, my peers in their recovery as it pertains to mental health, substance abuse. And I deal with a lot of, you know, see a lot of that trauma, see a lot of that going on. And so even from a behavioral standpoint, because it fashions you and it formulates your behavior, you know. And so I would encourage that person to an individual, you know, saying a male to you know, seek help and just, you know, and allow the healing process to begin. And that's my take on it.
Thank you so much. Well, I'll tell you what, though, we can continue on because your numbers are, people that are coming in, the numbers are just going up and up, and we can go on for another hour on this one, but we're not going to do it because we know this is Sunday, and hopefully this is the beginning of discussion. I would very much love to have you all come back again so that we can continue this, because I really feel that this is rich. I feel that this is something that we need. You know, it's my hope that this particular segment will be spread around the internet, LinkedIn, everywhere, so that people can hear. You know, because what we're hearing is all we're hearing is about us. We're just hearing us, women, and now it's important that we can have all this conversation. Now, one question that I have for Matthew, I have this for Matthew. Yolanda Dupree says, how can we help men deal with their emotional pain, or what makes a man open up? So I guess this is a wife trying to throw one in there, trying to figure out something here. What makes a man open up, and how can we help? How can we help men deal with their emotional pain?
Well, I guess I can only kind of start with me. What would help me open up? And the reason why I say this is because most men are pretty much gonna feel the same thing. You know what I mean? I think having an understanding and a relationship that's a concrete, that you're able to feel free to, I gotta feel free to be vulnerable in a way. And if I can't feel like, if there's an environment, I think for me, if it's not an environment to where I feel like I can express my vulnerability to you without feeling, oh, hey, be a man, don't be a punk or whatever. You know what I mean? That I can open up and know that if I open up this chest, that I can put something in you and that you can lock it up. It's not going to be something that will be used later as a weapon. You know what I mean? That can be weaponized, as Dr. Golden said, you know what I mean? But it's something that I need to feel free that I can come to you through our relationship. I've heard this and I've said it, and sometimes when I'm talking to my wife now, that in order to really to carry heavy things, you know, you can't carry those things over a bamboo bridge. You know what I mean? I can't drive a Mack truck over a bamboo bridge. You know what I mean? So I think for me, as far as opening up, and I guess the other man can agree with me, is that when you are with your wives, you want to first, the man's got to feel safe emotionally. You know what I mean? Because men are hard on the outside, but soft on the inside. And women are soft on the outside, but hard on the inside. You know what I mean? So if I can feel safe in my home, in my castle, to where I'm talking to my queen and I'm like, look, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I need to express to you, blah, 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 to where I can open up. If that environment is not there, then I'm not going to open up. You know what I mean? Or I may just need to shut down. I may need to stop and think, you know, because I'm not going to process information differently. You know what I mean? But I think for me, as far as in a relationship, knowing that within my relationship, that number one, I'm being heard, you know, and number two, it's not going to be used against me, and three, that our relationship is such that, you know what I mean, it's solid. It's not going to go anywhere, and that we're having that relationship. You know.
Wow, thank you.
I hope that answered the question.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Can I just piggyback on that?
Yes.
Second.
Yes.
And I agree with some of the things that my brother here was saying. I also think, you know, I feel that in order to open up, you know, it must be welcoming. You know what I mean? I must be welcome to do so. You know, where that platform is given to do so, and it's a welcoming platform. You know, it's received in a welcoming way, and also that not being judgmental of what is being shared. You know, and that's some of the reasons why I think most, even women, you know, they don't want to be judged by what they tell their spouse or what they tell to the individual. You don't want that information to be used to judge you. You know what I mean? To judge you by, and so not being judgmental. And I think that's why a lot of us are not transparent. I think that's why a lot of men are not transparent. You know, to open up and share certain things. You know, if a man has ever been like, if a man was abused, you know, as a child, well, if he feel like a woman's gonna use that and judge him, and later on, you know, tell him, you know, he's a, you know, try to classify him as being something that it's not, you know what I mean, or to test his manhood, you know, so it can't be used against it. You can't be judgmental about the information that's being given to you. You know what I mean? This is something that happened. You know what I'm saying? This is something I'm sharing. This is something that I'm trying to heal from and get past. Are you willing to help me do that?
So I want to say that words are very powerful. So the words that you say to your husband, like, or even if you were to say like, oh, you're not a man, something as simple like that, you're gonna shut the door. But like, okay. You know what I mean? You have to watch your words. Words are powerful. They paint pictures. You know what I mean? And in the Christian community, it's like we live in a voice-activated world. You create in the self-fulfilling prophecy, your own demise. You know what I mean? You want to, like the Bible says, it says, a wise woman builds her house, but a foolish woman tears it down with her bare hands.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Thank you so much. Greg, we're going to start to wind down and just, I want each one of you to just take us through. This has really been, I'm sitting here trying to just do some application of to my own self. You know, I'm sitting here and just looking, okay, let me assess and reassess my own situation. And also, I've really gotten a lot out of what you've discussed today. Thank you so, so much for because I see a lot of all these comments coming in. I think my women are able to even understand a little bit more about men. This is the kind of discussion I always want to have. I never want to be one of those that would be lopsided and not look at the others, because for me, I have two boys. I cannot afford to close my eyes. I just can't afford it. It's not an option for me. I have sisters that have boys. I just can't afford to say, oh, okay, we're just gonna close our eyes and go in one direction. And I think discussions like this will help. At least this is my hope. You know, if it does a little, just for a handful, perhaps this handful can make a difference out there too, because they've heard you men. So let me start with Greg. What is one thing that you want to leave my ladies with tonight? What do you want? One thing that you want them to know about men that you know that is going to really change their perspective tonight.
He's muted.
Oh, okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Greg.
I would just tell women what I tell my wife. You know, my best friend most of my life, and married 31 years, my 30-year-old daughter, my two nieces I raised. To just always listen to us men, that we have a story to tell too. We're not the big hawk guys that they think. We have emotional intelligence to us about us also. That we have to trust you. Like someone said, if we tell our wife something and then we hear that they said something to their sister or their mother-in-law, I thought he was a man. Right? I thought he was a man. I thought I was married. Listen, I thought I was married to Tarzan. I didn't know I was married to Jane. Right? So I would tell all the women out there to be supportive, and most women are. Listen, I love me some women, right? As Abraham Lincoln said, everything I am and everything I hope to be, I owe to a woman. Right? So I love me some women, but we have to ask our wives to just listen to us with an open heart. Actually listen, like we're all doing right here. We're listening, right? We're not listening to respond. We're just listening, right? So I would tell every woman out there, just listen to your husband, right? To your boyfriend, whatever. Look at him in the eye and just say, tell me, what's hurting you? But mean that. Say, what's hurting you? What's on your mind? What are you going through? Because like I said, we're not all that Tarzan, that Hawk guy. We have feelings too. And I think once women, right, I can go to my wife for anything. I can go to her and just cry because I got an ingrown nail or something, right? Because that's the trust that we have. I have the trust that she's not going to tell her mom or her sister, wow, I thought my husband was a big dude, man. Right? No. So trust is a must. Trust is a must. When we can tell our wives something where we know it's between us, then that's when we can be vulnerable. That's when we can cry, because I know men right now who would not cry if they lost their children because of what their wives would say. And that's foolishness. That's crazy. Right? So I would tell women, please, just with an open heart, just listen to your man and be supportive there. Because someone said earlier, it's the queen that protects the king, right? In chess. We need our wife. We need the women in our life. Amen. We do. We need them because they are the protectors of us, really. I mean, we think we're protecting them, but listen, my wife I'm 6'1", 260 pounds, right? Played outside linebacker at the University of Florida. My wife is 4'9", and she's much badder than I am. Right? Because if you listen, a woman, you mess with their money, or their home or their children, right? They will attack you like the lioness they are. So women just have to listen to us men and just understand that what society tells them, that a man cannot cry, right? That a man cannot be soft inside. And most women, they want a man who can be soft inside. Mm-hmm. They do. Most women that I talk to around the country, around the world, they want a man. They want a man like Jason Hodge, when I see Jason with his kids, right, at a function. They want a man like me who raises my 2 nieces, right? That's what they want. So we have to let these women understand, if you can let us pour our hearts out to you, right? Not in a whining way, not as a whiner, but generally being emotional to you. That's why we're with you, right? 2 become 1. So every woman out there who can just listen with an open heart to their husband with no judgment, that's when the greatness happens.
Wow. Thank you so much, Greg. Let me go to Dr. Gordon. Your last words, please.
Thank you, Sister Princess. I would just say I began my remarks today by saying that most men die twice. And if I could leave women with anything this evening, it would be the admonition to make sure that the man or men in your life only die once. Make sure that you tend to their emotional and psychological well-being. When they tell you something, take them seriously. If they tell you something is happening that's causing them pain, believe them and do what you can to give them support. It's not the time for ridicule when a man opens his heart to you. It's the time for action, and that action can take many forms depending on the circumstances. It may be the case that the men in your life are suffering from some untreated trauma, and if they can get help, then you need to encourage them to get help, whether it be therapy or otherwise. So I guess I would say to the women tonight, take your men seriously, create an atmosphere that makes him want to open his heart to you, create a space of trust, and make sure that he only dies once. You don't want the man in your life to die twice. And I would just leave women with that. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Jason?
And I would say to that, and I love what all of the men here have said, so important, and so I'm going to echo everything that they said, and then I'll add this, is that always make sure that you guard the trust that you have, with your husband, with your spouse, with the man in your life, because trust is a very fragile thing, inside of a man's world, because we need to know that if we share something with you, it's not going to be turning up somewhere else all skewed, because it's never shared properly when it is shared outside. So that trust, what ends up happening is you will shut him down to where he will not share anything else with you. And then you will wonder, why isn't he sharing anything with you? Because you have broken that trust. He doesn't know where you're going with that information and what's happening with that information outside of your relationship. So trust is very important. And then also be careful what you say around your sons. Be careful what you say around, because what happens is that your sons are taking note of everything that you say. So every negative, disparaging thing you say about a man, they're taking that in and saying, okay, let me make sure I'm not guilty of that. And what that's going to do is affect their relationships down the way, because the more things that you do that show them that men are not worth anything to you, the more they are going to not want to be the men who are not worth anything. And so then what they will end up doing is attracting women who men are not worth anything to them. Wow. And then the cycle will continue. So if you want to keep that cycle from going on and repeating itself, you will guard what you do when you say around your sons and those, young men in your life, who are looking at you as the example of the woman that they will soon go to take into their lives. Very important.
Wow, thank you so much. That's powerful. Thank you so much. Courtney and Matthew.
And that was powerful. With Jason, that it just blew everything out the water, my brother. But I mean, piggybacking, I mean, everything that everyone has shared here, just as Jason said, but that right there, man, is mind blowing. You're talking about cycles, and that I like that. But with all that's been said, I'd like to add just, loyalty and again, that trust thing, very vital, very key. But loyalty, and I'm a person of loyalty. I'm a person that I believe in loyalty. If you ever, had anyone disappoint you or leave your life or not be there that should have been, when you find people and you connect, you want loyalty. So when I, deal with, as far as a spouse, I'm looking for loyalty. A lot of those things you talk about, I can get past. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you violate trust. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, let's talk about it. Maybe it's a mistake and forgive and let's move forward. But, loyalty means, you turned your back and you walked away. And so loyalty is about sticking together. And if, we can stick together, we can work through things, we can work out anything. We can accomplish anything. We can overcome anything, any obstacle, if we can just, if we stay together. And that's the thing with a family. If a family stays together, you know what I mean? They can overcome many mountains together. You know what I mean? And so I'm big on the loyalty thing. But another thing is also I asking or trying to gain the understanding of, asking a man, what is it like, being a man? I've never just really had a woman ask me that particular question. I mean, and it never came up until today. What is it like being a modern day man or a man in this modern day? But I never had an individual, a woman, ask me, what is it like to be a man? And I think if you would approach that from that standpoint, you would get a better understanding, And so I think that that's probably what should be targeted. Find out what it's like. Actually, your spouse or the males in your life. What is it actually like to be a man? In society.
Thank you so much, Matthew.
Well, I think I want to kind of take an opposite view in this way by this word. The word is divorce. When you actually study, you look up the word divorce. It wasn't die, divorce. It was die, meaning to, force. So meaning that divorce was actually the division of two forces. We understand, and what I want the women to understand here is that you are powerful. You're really powerful. And the purpose of why God even put you here was not only to be a helpmeet, but to rule, right? Now, the Bible talks about how one could put 1,000 to flight, but 2, 10,000. So when you look at that, that is exponential growth, exponential power, where God is putting his man and his woman together. It was for purpose, for power. So I want you to know that men understand that you are very powerful. We understand that you are very powerful. And like my brother, Dr. Tim Goldman said, not to weaponize the gifts that God has given you against your gifts, against the men that are in your life. So it's like, sometimes perspective is everything. I always have to, there's a thin line between reality and perspective. So it's like, even when we call you rib, right? He was coming out of the rib of man, say, right? But that rib was connected to the skeletal system of that man, right? So when you look at the skeletal system of man, inside this head right here is my skeleton, it's my brain. But it's the skeleton that protects my brain. It's the skeleton, the bone, that helps me turn my head. It's the skeletal system that actually protects my heart, all my vital organs. It's the skeletal system that's in my legs that help me stand. It's the skeletal system that's in my feet that help me plant, to be a foundation. When God took you out of that, that's what he was saying about you. You understand what I'm saying? So it was all of that was to protect, to help, build, to be the strength inside. Because, I mean, when we hear it says behind every good man is a greater woman, that's true. Because it's part of her purpose was to help him stand, to build him up. So I want to encourage you to know that you're powerful.
Well, I tell you what, thank you all so much for just this amazing night. I know that a lot of our sisters, look, your numbers are just going up and up. I think people just woke up or something. I don't know what's going on, but y'all got to watch the replay, y'all, because you are two hours late or something, because I don't know what's going on. So y'all got to watch the replay. Please, I urge you men to spend time. It might not be tonight because I know you're probably winded and tired after all this discussion. But during the week, just come back into the community and just look at some of the questions that the ladies are asking. I really believe that by tomorrow, you're going to even get more questions in, and just look at that thread and try to answer as much as possible. The ladies still have more questions. They still have more questions for you. I want to thank you all so much for tonight. I hope this will not be. Oh, Jason, you want to add one more thing? All right. Okay.
Yes. Okay. The one thing that I wanted to add is quit looking at media for your ideal man. Okay. Quit dealing with the men in your life by comparative study. Because what happens is that it's like this. Every garden that you put your hand to, you get the fruit from that garden according to how you've sown and how you've nurtured that garden. So if you're looking for somebody else's garden, somebody else's harvest, and you've not put in the work for that garden, you cannot expect to get that fruit. So you've got to, first of all, make your choice wisely. Don't just choose just anybody. But once you have chosen the person that you are going to stay your life with, then it is a collaborative work that you are both doing moving forward. And what you end up with is what you've put into it. So you've got to be willing to go those steps in order to harvest what it is that you want to harvest. If you are going by media and the fairy tale of what happens, I'm going to tell you on the other side of media, and this is what most people don't know, the other side of media, most of those that you see in the limelight are miserable, which is why they inebriate with drugs, addictions of all sorts. I mean, I'm talking weird and everything else in between. They inebriate with that because they want to numb their pain. And so what they don't tell you is the pain and turmoil that they go through and are going through as they are in the public eye, because they don't want to fall from grace. But you're looking at their life as this is the ideal life, and it's a facade. So I would encourage you to make sure that you are not basing your reality on a reality that only exists in Hollywood.
Wow, thank you. Erica T. Johnson just said to date, we have over 138 shares of your 138 shares of justice. And I know it's going to be more than that by the time we're done, and even tomorrow more so. Any one of you have maybe one last thing that you want to slide in? Dr. Gordon, anything that you want to slide in? Anybody has any one more thing that you want to slide in?
Well, I just want to say that I'm very humbled again and honored to have been asked to participate. I want to say to Matthew and Courtney and Jason, and it looks like Greg has left us.
Yeah,
I wanted to say
he was in the car. Yeah.
I'm so grateful to everyone to have met everyone in this forum. And I hope that this is the beginning of a cultural shift in terms of how we view men, in terms of the importance of taking men seriously. That, you know, we have to unite against this cultural momentum that sees men as expendable, useless, stupid, and simply there to serve the neurotic and narcissistic needs of women. And that's not to say that every woman is neurotic or that every woman is a narcissist, but it is to say that something is wrong when we live in a world where women have plenty of resources to share their pain, where women are encouraged to get together with their friends and cry and, you know, have a good support system, and men are discouraged from any of that. To the men who are listening tonight, I would say, get a group of friends, have a group of brothers who you talk to, who you can just be free with, who you can confide in. You don't have to get together and bash women, but you do have a responsibility to take care of the soul that God gave you, that God is trying to save. You know, what I say to men, Sister Princess, is that divorce is not a method of conflict resolution any more than abortion is a method of birth control.
Wow.
You don't run to the courthouse to get a divorce over trivial things that relate to your spouse's ordinary, everyday character flaws or problems or things that annoy you. When you get married, you sign up for that. You know there's going to be things about your wife or your husband that are going to bother you. But that's not why you get divorced. You have to live with those things. But what you don't have to live with, whether you're a man or a woman, and in this case, we're talking about men, you do not have to live in a relationship with a woman as our husband if that relationship is emotionally and psychologically unsafe for you. You do not have to stay in that relationship. Again, you don't get divorced because you're trying to resolve an ordinary everyday conflict. But when the doctor tells you that you're either going to live with two legs, you're either going to die with two legs or live with one, you got to make the difficult decision, because that's really what a divorce is. A divorce is like amputating a limb.
Yeah.
That's really what it is. And nobody wants to get their leg amputated. And, you know, I didn't want a divorce. I wish that I was still married to the same woman. I really do. But the problem is that, you know, the doctor has told me either you're going to die with two legs or live with one. And so I had to make the difficult decision that I would rather live the rest of my life limping than I would live the rest of my life dead. Because the soul that God's trying to save is dead long before the body is in the grave. And on that note, I would just say to the men and women out there, Proverbs 4:23 in the New International Version, I love the translation. It says, above all things, guard your heart. Above all things. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah.
Above all things, guard your heart. And to the men and women, but especially men, if you can't be married and healthy at the same time, you don't need to be married. If you can be married and be healthy, that's great. If you can't be married and be healthy at the same time, you're better off being healthy than you are being married. There's another proverb that says to men, it's better to live on the rooftop than to live in the house with a contentious woman. And there's a lot of people out there who talk about the home, and I got a nice home and home this and home that. Having a house and having a home are two very different things.
That's right.
You know what that means? That means that it's possible for you to own a house and be homeless.
That's right. That's right.
And I hope people think about that.
That right there is another day for you to even come back and talk about that right now. Because I love
I'm
that.
gonna leave it there. There's a lot of people who own houses but who have no homes. Because a home is not bought or sold. A home is the place of unconditional love, unequivocal acceptance, and it's a place where people are free to be the selves that God has made them to be. And too many people, men and women, but especially men, they work to maintain a house, and yet they have no home, and that's tragic. Thank you, Sister Princess. I'm so honored and humbled to have been here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So, well,
Amen.
all of us here are asking that we invite you men back again because they're enjoying all of this. And so I would like to extend it that at some point we're going to, now that topic there that you said, the home versus the house, that's definitely a topic that we can talk about because many people get it twisted. Many people get it twisted, and that is certainly something that we can actually come back and even discuss that too. Our guys there, everybody else, thank you so much. To my ladies out there, thank you for gracing us with your presence down there. Thank you so much. Even when this is over, I urge you to continue to what did you say? 151? Okay, so we have about 156 shares. I ask that you continue to share it and share it and share it and share it. I want to see this keep going on and on. For those of you who are just joining, please watch the replay. You do not want to miss this. We are going to bring our fearless men back. Our fearless, yeah, that's right, fearless visionary men. We're going to bring them back. And I got just the right title. A home is not a home, but a home versus a house.
A house is not a home. Like the song.
A house is not a home. Somebody write that down for me, please. A house is not a home. Because that right there, I mean, that speaks even volume to the making of a man. It speaks volume to the growth of a young boy, from a young boy to becoming a man. That speaks volumes, right? It speaks volumes right there. So, hey, everybody. Thank you, everybody. Okay, Onyinye, thank you for writing it for me. Thank you all so much for joining us. Until next time, be inspired, be motivated, be of sentimental value. Know that you are the hero in your life story. Do not allow anybody to write your story. Only you know how to write your story best. So thank you all so much tonight. And until next time, I will see you later. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye, everybody. Now let me turn us off.